Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be talking about the Edmonton Oilers and Peter Chiarelli being fired as their GM. Now, after the Edmonton Oilers' struggles this season, the Oilers finally fired their GM Peter Chiarelli. So what should we think of this firing, and who will be hired in his place? Now, once again, the Edmonton Oilers have officially fired Peter Chiarelli, and can I just get a hallelujah, because I am so happy that they finally did it. After 4 years with the Edmonton Oilers and a few years, of course, with the Boston Bruins, Peter Chiarelli has been GMing for quite a while in the NHL, and he has been one of the most notorious GMs throughout the whole league on just being bad with almost every single move, and especially with the Edmonton Oilers, it just seemed like he was making bad move after bad move pretty much on purpose. But after a rough loss at 3-2 versus the Detroit Red Wings yesterday, the Edmonton Oilers did fall to a 23-24-3 record, and being below 500 that far into the season, and this far into the season, I think is what sparked the Oilers to look inside the organization and say, hey, Chiarelli is not getting the job done, which he wasn't from practically day one. Now, after that 3-2 loss versus the Detroit Red Wings, the Oilers had a lot of rumors swirling around them. We got Ryan Rashok from TSN spilling a couple of very juicy tweets, him saying that a firing of Peter Chiarelli is pretty much imminent, and that was completely true. As I was waiting for more news to come out, John Shannon tweeted at 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. my time that Peter Chiarelli was officially fired. I think that was like a few minutes after I went to bed, which really was devastating, but nonetheless, I am still happy that Peter Chiarelli is finally gone. And this season was a season that was looked at as the Edmonton Oilers to possibly be competitive for the playoffs once again. And for the Edmonton Oilers, last year was almost complete failure, at least in most people's eyes. And for the Edmonton Oilers, this year was a year that they could rebound. They could be a lot better. But so far, they've only, I think right now, they're like 4 points ahead of where they were at last year. So they're not getting it done whatsoever. And the expectations that they had to rebound have pretty much just been shattered by pretty much everyone that has made them, including me. But a couple of moves a couple of days ago were just baffling. We had Ryan Spooner going on waivers like a month after Peter Chiarelli traded it for him for Ryan Strome, and that whole situation was stupid in its own right. But while I do like Mikko Koskinen, Peter Chiarelli went out and gave him a $4.5 million contract for Mikko Koskinen, who, yes, I think he has been solid, but has yet to be proven in the NHL, at least as a full-time starter. And for the Peter Chiarelli and what he's done, we don't have to go far to look at the bad trades that he's made. You just have to go out and down a page, and honestly, there's so many bad trades you could look at with Peter Chiarelli, so many bad moves that, honestly, it's too much to count. I mean, let's just look at it. First, the Taylor Hall for Larson trade, one of the worst trades maybe in NHL history, and of course that's on Peter Chiarelli's permanent record. You got the Lucic contract, the Chris Russell contract, so you got the Talbot contract, which hasn't worked out for them really, and then you got the Mikko Koskinen contract, and then trading Eberle for Strome, and then trading Strome for Spooner, and then putting Spooner on waivers, which just cycled off into a complete bust of a trade. Now, I want to float something by you guys. The Peter Chiarelli firing is the best move made by the Edmonton Oilers since drafting Connor McDavid in the first 2015 NHL draft. And I just want to let that sink in, because with the Edmonton Oilers, it's pretty much been 4 years since then, and Connor McDavid was pretty much gifted on their laps by the other GM that tanked them. So with Peter Chiarelli and what he was able to do, he wasn't able to be too impressive through a lot of his stuff, and while he did make some decent moves, really, most of the time they just fell flat on his face. And it's really weird because with Peter Chiarelli, it's almost like he's trying to be as bad as possible. The guy isn't really dumb. He went to Harvard University, so he's not like a stupid guy. But when it comes to the trades and the moves that he makes, it's almost routinely bad time after time again. And for some reason, the Edmonton Oilers waited this long to get rid of him, which I think is honestly the worst part of all of this. I know Edmonton wanted some GM security that they hadn't had before. They were shuffling GMs, shuffling coaches in that phase. But with Peter Chiarelli, that Taylor Hall for Larson trade should have been enough to just say instantly that he is not the GM for us. So for me, with Edmonton, I'm glad they have finally fired him. But it's about time, and maybe even too late for him, because he's been able to control his team, and that is not necessarily a good thing. But it doesn't even have to be said that a team of Connor McDavid, the best player right now in the world, should be competing for a playoff spot and should be at least over a 500 record. Right now, the Edmonton Oilers can't really say that, and Connor McDavid's still having a fantastic season, but the same issues are plaguing this team, the same holes that Peter Chiarelli has put on this Edmonton Oilers team are still biting them in the butt, and it's happening routinely, time after time again, year after year, and honestly, I just feel bad for Connor McDavid the most because he is the captain of that team, but there's only so much a captain can do that could really fix his team, and Connor McDavid, I think, has done the most out of any captain to make sure that the team is better, but it's not going to work in the long run because of what Peter Chiarelli did. But when you have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid, you should at least be contending for the playoffs, and the Edmonton Oilers are barely doing that. Being below a 500 record, it's a pretty big excuse for a team right now, and Connor McDavid, being the captain of the team, I feel like he's done as much as he can pretty much humanly do. He's a good guy, he's a good professional guy, but it just seems like he is destroyed mentally. When it comes to Connor McDavid, when you see him in interviews, he just seems like a completely different person. His face is just stressed out. You can see it in his body that he is just done with the team and done with especially the moves that the GMs and the ownership have made. So for me, I am happy most for Connor McDavid because hopefully he can get out of this mess. And what's even more crazy is that Ken Hitchcock had a very interesting quote in his interview after that Red Wings game, saying that the team was a one-line team, that if you defended 5 guys, you would defend us all. And that's a pretty true statement from Hitchcock, of course, the coach of the Edmonton Oilers. It's not like he has too much to work with. The Edmonton Oilers just aren't that great of a team right now. They have Oscar Klefbom injured, which is also very rough for them. But Ken Hitchcock was pretty much spewing truth there, and what he said was completely true. Now, when it just comes to the players, the painting was on the wall when it came to Peter Chiarelli's firing. I mean, McDavid wasn't avidly against him, but you could pretty much see in his eyes that he was against the management. You got Ken Hitchcock, who was pretty much saying that it was a one-line team, that the team was desperately flawed, and you got Daryl Cates, who probably at this time was seriously fed up by the job that Peter Chiarelli did. But hopefully this is a lesson learned for the entire NHL that Peter Chiarelli is not to be trusted. Even though he did win that one Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins, that was mostly the guy before that built that team. But even then, with the Edmonton Oilers, his tenure was an absolute failure, and I feel like that's more the norm from him rather than the actual expectations. So for me, if any NHL team ends up signing Peter Chiarelli, I think they deserve to lose at that point because you're just going down a hole that you don't want to be in. Now with the Edmonton Oilers, they are my 8th favorite team, so I really do wish for their success most of the time, and with Peter Chiarelli, he's just been infuriating to watch, whether it be through trades, signings, waivers, whatever it may be. Peter Chiarelli has been the most infuriating thing about this Edmonton Oilers team, and there's been a lot of infuriating things with this Edmonton Oilers team. There's a lot to pick and choose, but Peter Chiarelli and the move that he's made has been just terrible over the course of the past few years, and seeing him gone finally just brings a soft spot in my heart. Now, John Shannon, of course, leaked this information that Chiarelli was fired, but we also got some new news on where the Edmonton Oilers might be going next for their next GM job. Now, John Shannon says the search for a new GM in Edmonton begins immediately, so pretty much after Chiarelli was fired. They expect to hear names like Gillis, Hunter, McCrimmon, Fuda, and Hextall on that list. And that list isn't very promising when it comes to potential guys. I'm really hoping that out of that list, Hextall is hired, but with the Edmonton Oilers, I think that their GM search will be pretty quick. I feel like we'll see a new GM in the next week or so. With the Edmonton Oilers, they usually don't waste time in that position, and for the GM, it's something that, while it is at the All-Star break, is something that almost needs to be replaced immediately. So for the Edmonton Oilers, I'm hoping that they find the right guy, but we'll see, because usually they don't. But whoever they may hire, I'm just happy that it won't be Peter Chiarelli in that GM position, because I've had enough of him as the GM of the Edmonton Oilers, and even though they might hire somebody bad once again, I don't think you can get much worse than Peter Chiarelli at this point. I really don't think you can. But I'm just happy for Oilers fans that they finally have some good news on their hands. Besides Connor McDavid playing like an absolute beast, as always, they don't have a lot of things to look forward to. And Peter Chiarelli being fired, yes, it is kind of sad that you have to look forward to that, but at that point, I am happy for them, because Peter Chiarelli's firing has been a long time coming, and I'm happy that it finally came. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about this Peter Chiarelli firing? Who do you think they'll hire next? And what do you think about Peter Chiarelli's time with the Edmonton Oilers? But if you guys want some more Grav videos, you can watch this video where I talk about the NHL trade deadline and which teams will be sellers. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. You can comment down below your thoughts on Peter Chiarelli and who they'll hire next. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.